emotion and yin and yang to it as well. Good afternoon to you. My name is Jake Query. Nathaniel, don't call me Atticus Finch, is filling in on the big board today. Eddie Garrison is, I think, taking a day trip to Seattle, restocking, if you will. And let me begin with this. Obviously, we are aware that it is Memorial Day, and I have always, myself, and this is just a personal thing, I think I used to say it myself, and then I stopped and thought about it. I don't say Happy Memorial Day, because that's not to say that we should not be joyous of the liberties that are afforded us thanks to the ultimate sacrifice before by those who allow us the freedoms that we have. But I think rather simply you say, you know, on this Memorial Day, I hope you are spending it with friends, family, whatever it may be that you desire and choose, but at the same time recognize those that, to quote Jim Phillippe, have given their lives unselfishly and without fear to allow us as free men and women the right to be able to watch, or in this case, discuss the world's most spectacular spectator sport, as well as the Pacers from last night. So for those who have passed, those who have loved ones who have passed through their service to this country, that loss and that sacrifice is not in vain. So with that, we are here because obviously yesterday was one of the most significant sports days in Indianapolis. You have the Indianapolis 500 and you have the Pacers and the Knicks. Normally, I would choose to talk about the Pacers and the Knicks first because number one, I think there are probably more fans of the sport of the NBA and the Pacers than of the actual sport or competition of the Indianapolis 500. But with the Knicks coming back the way that they did, with Karl Anthony Towns owning the fourth quarter the way that he did, with the disappointment and despair, and I think the Pacers game resembled the spirit of the fan base last night to a great extent, and is thus the reason why the Pacers are now 0-4 lifetime playing in games on the day of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Because I truly think what happened, it's almost like the basketball gods were aware that of the 22,000, I'd like to know this. Nathaniel, you help me out with this. Let's say there were 22,000 people at that game last night. Of that 22,000, how many do you believe were at the Indianapolis 500?
7, 8, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, probably a third, right? You got to figure if there were, and believe you me, there were 350,000 at the 500. I'm not kidding you. The 2016 event was massive. I'm not sure yesterday may not have been bigger. That was a massive crowd, even with the weather. So I think what happened was people were super juiced, super excited, super pumped up, coming off of the 500. They probably, maybe got time to go home and quickly shower and then get in there. And by the third quarter, I'll be honest, I mean, it was a long day. And the juice just started to go out of the building. And I'm not saying that players feed off of the crowd or that the crowd is responsible for things, but it did feel like when the Pacers most needed an additional push, people were just, there was a nervous energy. And New York now makes it 2-1. It means, I think, a huge, huge game number 4, because if the Pacers go up 3-1, they are still in very good position. If New York wins in game 4, then things have absolutely shifted. And the home court goes back to the New York Knicks, which you do not want to have happen. So Indiana must win on Tuesday night. Let's begin with the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. It was such a bizarre and surreal day altogether. Because number one, and of course it would happen that today is Chamber of Commerce weather outside. Of course, right? It's gorgeous. It was a weird day all the way around. It took longer than usual to get in. I get that. You have that many people there. That's inevitable. Lots were filling up by 6:45 in the morning. I get it. There's a ton of people. You just have to know, and I think 98% of all people do, that when you're going to the Indy 500, the part of the inconvenience and the mayhem of getting in is what makes it what it is. It's just part of it. I had a guy text me Saturday night. So Saturday night, Shannon and I did what we do every year. We go down, we go to the parade. I love the parade. Love everything about it. It's cheesy, but I love it. So we go to the parade, and then we go and we have a beer right there on Mass Ave. And then I go home and I kind of start to wind it down, and then we go to dinner, usually on Main Street and Speedway. So we went to dinner on Main Street and Speedway, and I get a call from a guy that says, hey, can you help me find a good way into the Speedway? And I said, I have a fail-proof plan. The Jake Query fail-proof north side route to the Speedway. It works like a charm. It's a super secret sauce ingredient that I've shared with a few people. So I tell this guy this, and I said, where are you coming from? And he said, Evansville. Evansville? When are you leaving? We're going to leave at like 5 or 6 in the morning. Okay, well, enjoy the last 50 laps. But at any rate, you just know going in that it's going to be an odd day and that stuff's going to happen that you're going to talk about for a long time. That was the coldest that I personally have ever felt in the 500. That was my 40th race I've attended. One of those that I did not attend was 1992, which is the coldest race on record. That had to be close. And where I was, I had on 4 layers, a winter coat. I'm not kidding you, for the Indy 500. But I love everything about it. It was an odd start because of the rain that fell and then recording laps under caution. I don't recall that happening. When Guerrero spun out on the parade lap, or when Tom Sneva had an incident in 86 in the parade or pace laps, they brought everybody in. They still started under a flying start. So I don't know how many times they've had it without the flying start. The Apache helicopters over the field to commemorate the 250th birthday of the U.S. Army was unbelievable. I don't know how they did that. That was incredible. And again, it's what makes that event what it is you see something and you're like, how many places could even get this done? That was awesome. Then the race itself, you had the McLaughlin incident. It was a fractured race. It was a race that you had different intervals immediately because of the weird way that they started under caution and everything else. It threw different fuel strategies into play. And as a result of the different fuel strategies, it meant that you had at times packs of leaders. So there was like Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3 in terms of the fuel strategies. And at the outset of the race, you knew that the usual cast of players were going to be towards the front. Sato, who led the most laps of anybody in the race and was flat out fast. And obviously Palou was up there. Dixon had an incident that shuffled him back, and then he kind of fell into irrelevance for the course of the race. That happens. I thought personally that Newgarden, watching him from the beginning of the race, had the best car for the totality of the race until his fuel line went out. But nonetheless, you had these different packs that would get into the lead, and so when you had Devlin DeFrancesco and Louis Foster running at the front of the field, or for a while there, the ECR cars with Ed Carpenter, Alexander Rossi, and Christian Rasmussen leading the field, it became very confusing to figure out who, or as I always said, who organically was the leader and who was the leader because they were strictly in a pit cycle where eventually they were going to be off sequence and it was going to fall short for them. The math wasn't going to work out. And that makes it confusing to follow. But in the end, it came down essentially to, let's say, 4 drivers. Ryan Hunter-Reay was in the catbird seat. And Ryan Hunter-Reay led 48 laps. He moved into the top 32 all-time in laps led at the Speedway. He's been a remarkably consistent and mature veteran driver. And that Dreyer Reinbold team, for a team that only does it once a year, their strategy and their way to figure it out, Davey Hamilton did the same with Jack Harvey, getting him up there. But the same thing that bit Ryan Hunter-Reay bit Jack Harvey. And this is at no knock on Dreyer Reinbold Racing, Cusick Motorsports. It's no knock on Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing, which is what happened with Takuma Sato. But one of the most underappreciated, underrated aspects of the Indianapolis 500-mile race is you need 6 to 7 clean pit stops. And by clean pit stops, I mean you come in, you get 4 tires, you get fuel, and you exit, all within no more than 10 seconds. And when you have a team that is not doing this every single weekend, that's not to say that the men and women that are working on that car aren't totally capable, but they aren't in total unison of muscle memory, working with each other like an offensive line in the NFL that's been doing it forever, of knowing the heartbeat of everybody else in sync. And 3 or 4 seconds or 4 or 5 seconds can cost you a race. It happened to Sato when he had a long pit stop. It happened to Ryan Hunter-Reay in the pits, and it happened to, a couple of others where a pit stop, like it happened to Jack Harvey. He had a hiccup in the pit stops, and that was it. And so it is the team that has clean pit stops and good car that wins the race. The thing about the Indianapolis 500-mile race that makes it the greatest race in the world is there are no fluke winners. There are no fluke winners. Alex Palou might not have dominated that race, but Alex Palou right now is the best driver of this era. Now, I don't mean when I say era, I mean this 5-year window, whatever it may be, but he is a multiple champion who is as red hot and as precise as any driver in the field in IndyCar racing. And the only thing that he has yet to accomplish in the last 3 to 4 years of what has been a remarkable run in terms of the number of wins he has versus starts. He's winning like I'd have to look at the numbers, but something like 20% of his starts have been wins in the last 3 years. It's incredible. So it is fitting that he would win the Indianapolis 500. That track picks its winner, and this was the year it picked Alex Palou. And it came down to Palou, David Malukas, Marcus Ericsson, Pato O'Ward, and Hunter-Reay, if not for that issue. And at no disrespect to Hunter-Reay or his team, they would have merited winning the race, but it was going in a sequence of strategy and fuel strategy that would have helped get them there. I'm not going to say that's a fluke, but I don't know that it is organically the best car in the field. Palou probably is. Newgarden was as well, and I think Newgarden would have been absolutely there to play. But in the grand scheme of things, what it comes down to is this. The new hybrid on the car, and without boring people, if I haven't already, that are not diehard race fans about the Indy 500, the hybrid unit, which was put in to appease the ingenuity of the automobile heading towards electric cars while also keeping with combustible engines, that hybrid unit that is in those cars creates an additional weight. And that additional weight means that if you get cars in a line, the aerodynamics and the air coming off of those cars combined with the weight and the way the cars are pushed down by that hybrid mean that unless you are the first or second car in a train, it's very difficult to pass because of the amount of air coming off from in front of you. So late in the race, when Alex Palou knew that he had Devlin DeFrancesco and Louis Foster in front of him, who were just trying to stay on the lead lap, but were running at race pace, and he had Marcus Ericsson behind him, he knew it was going to be extremely difficult for Marcus Ericsson to make a pass because he was fourth in a line. Even though not all on the same lap, he was fourth in a line. And so Ericsson never got the opportunity over the last 14 laps to truly draw a bead and make a pass on Palou. Now, on the last lap, I thought he was really close, and he was narrowing it down going into Chris in turn 4, but Nolan Siegel hit the wall in turn 2, well behind them, but the caution comes out, and the race is over at that point. But Alex Palou, a deserved champion, an absolutely deserved champion. On the program today, Al Harrington's going to join us at 1 o'clock. We're also going to talk to Connor Daly. Alex Palou, the winner, at 2 o'clock, and at 2:30, Santino Ferrucci, who has another top 5 and has had a remarkable run in his starts at Indianapolis. Ferrucci will join us at 2:30 today. Al Harrington I saw last night at the game because they had many members of the Pacers lone NBA Finals team in attendance. Travis Best was there. Al Harrington was there. Derek McKee, who's usually at games, was there. Rick Smits was there. Obviously, Reggie Miller on TNT was there. And I went up to Al Harrington at halftime. Keep in mind, he was both a Knick and a Pacer. And just said, hey, can you come on? He said, no problem. So he's going to join us at 1 o'clock. And what we will talk about is this. I thought last night for the Pacers. First off, great start. And the energy was there. And when they got out to the 20-point lead, I like a lot of people, I just kind of assumed. I mean, I started texting Nathaniel like, hey, here's let's do for the Open, assuming the Pacers were going to win the game. Because, you know, I absolutely thought it was probably over. And late in the game, when the Pacers were down, you start resorting back to all of the comebacks, and I just thought you can only play with that fire so many times. You can only rely on that well so many times. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. The Pacers, to me, if you were to do it in a lazy fashion, you would say the crowd from the long day ran out of juice, and thus the Pacers ran out of juice. But it's more intricate than that. It's a couple of things. Number one, when Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns both had 4 fouls, I didn't think the Pacers did what I have been imploring that they should do for a while, and that is absolutely attack Karl Anthony Towns from every angle. He spends a lot of time on the floor. He kind of slowly trails at times, but the guy is a very good outside shooter. He is far more nimble and fleet of foot than his odd gait and body stature would tell you. He's an unbelievably talented basketball player. But once he had 4 fouls, I thought the Pacers erred in not being overly aggressive in getting to him. The same with Jalen Brunson. Once Brunson picked up his 4th foul, then what oddly has been a story within this series took place, which is New York's offense actually runs more efficiently without Jalen Brunson on the floor. And I think Jalen Brunson is an unbelievable basketball player. I have all the respect in the world for him. He knows angles really well. He has incredible body control on contact. He's a very good mid-range shooter. And he finds people on the floor. But at times he over-dribbles, and their fluidity offensively slows down a little bit without him out there. And once he went out, and then they had to prioritize Towns as their offensive focal point, Indiana had no answer. Towns with 20 in the fourth, with 8 boards, hit 3 threes in the fourth. The Pacers did not have anything to counter that. And when they went with, credit Tom Thibodeau, when they went with the double center lineup, pulled Josh Hart out, put Robinson in to go alongside with Karl Anthony Towns, it was an effective move that the Pacers could not counter. And that's the reason why New York now, it's 2-1, and Indiana's got to go back and readjust. For the Pacers, I thought Halliburton, while playing well, wasn't as aggressive as he needs to be. The double size down low seemed to, at times, neutralize Siakam. And Miles Turner did not have a Miles Turner-type night, I think because he was, with the doubles down low, he was having problems getting up high and running their offense. Their ball movement, the Pacers had 14 fast break points in the first half. They had 2 in the second. They did not play at the pace that they normally do. New York was able to stop them on the entry pass to going down and setting up their typical fast-paced offense, and that allowed the Knicks to hang around enough to then take the lead and ultimately take the game. And I think it's time now, if you're looking at adjustments. I know that they are different players offensively, and I know that maybe it changes the dynamic a little bit of what you need on the wing. But at this point, I'm ready to say you need to replace Benedict Mathurin in the rotation with Jarris Walker. Because Jarris Walker at least has a little more physicality, has a little bit more shooting ability. Well, I shouldn't say that. Mathurin's a better shooter. But if in rhythm, Walker can shoot from the outside. But it just, to me, why not go with Walker? Because I think defensively as well, you get a little bit more out of him. Mathurin's got a little bit of a dog streak in him, don't get me wrong, but he's been bad in this series. and he's been bad for a while. J&V pointed it out. He's right. Ever since the tech against Cleveland, when he got pushed halfway into Tiki Bob's, he hasn't been the same. He hasn't been the same. And I think Mathurin, as good a player as he is, and he is a good player, but he feels like with this roster now and the way that they've been playing for the last couple of months, feels a little bit like square peg, round hole. And it just doesn't necessarily fit in with what Indiana needs. And more so, I think that Mathurin, while you love his emotional intensity, it seems to me like emotionally he takes himself out of the game. And just, he is too emotionally fragile is the wrong way of saying it, but susceptible to be taken out, right? Susceptible to be taken out. And that's, what's kind of done him in. But there are other things, Nesmith getting hurt didn't help. I'm very curious about this for game number 4. Aaron Nesmith rolled his ankle. Now, earlier this year when he had an injury, he missed a ton of games. He came back out onto the floor. They liked the way that he was moving. One of the things about a sprained ankle, though, if you've ever sprained your ankle, Nathaniel, you ever sprained your ankle?
I have not.
You are the luckiest man alive. If you roll your ankle, anybody who's played basketball knows this. Right now, there are people, I don't know if they'd be in their car because no one's working today. If you are listening to my voice right now, you're nodding along if you've ever had a sprained ankle, okay? If you sprain your ankle, what you know is this. It's awful, but you got to keep moving on it. And it's not until you really stop that all of a sudden that bad boy becomes a baseball on the side of your foot. So with Nesmith, what I'm curious about is for him, and I assume maybe he took some sort of a painkiller or whatever else, or they wrapped it in a certain way to secure it that allowed him to get out there and play. And that's good for last night. But now I wonder how that's going to react in terms of between now and Tuesday. I'm assuming a lot of ice and elevation. But another injury, and I don't know if the television broadcast picked this up because I wasn't watching on television. I was there, obviously. But in the last 90 seconds of that game, and there was a guy, if you were watching the television broadcast, you might have seen there were 4 Knicks fans towards the front on the floor. And not that they weren't, 2 of them were on the floor, and then 2 were behind them, and then I was behind those guys. But one of them had a big gold chain on, and like all Knicks fans, traveling teams are funny, NBA teams, their fan base are all the same. They all, like whenever you get people that wear the jersey of the opposing team and like want to get a little bit obnoxious and whatever else, they're all the same guy. They've all got like Sugar Ray's hair and then Kid Rock glasses on, and they look like they probably wear chunky jeans and pointed toe shoes and I think JMV has said before, wear your car. That's probably right. It's always the same guys. But these 2 guys from New York, one of them had a big, huge gold chain thing on, and they were being your typical New York fans, go New York, go, and all that stuff. But they were nice dudes, and they were having fun with everybody around. I mean, they were very good-hearted natured about it, kind of like having fun because they could. But afterwards, we're chatting with everybody, and they were nice guys. And that guy, I pointed to him and said, hey, man, like, check this out. And he noticed it also. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm surprised they haven't done anything. But Karl Anthony Towns got hurt with like a minute and a half to go in that game. He was noticeably laboring on his knee. I mean, noticeably favoring his knee and wincing. And in the last 2 defensive possessions, he was pulled in favor of Robinson. And I think they put him in the last Knicks offensive possession, but even then, he was laboriously moving around, laboring that knee. Was that just, it got bumped and it was a quick bruise? I don't know. Or did he sprain something and therefore, I don't know. But it was noticeable to me, and that's another one. Nesmith's injury and Karl Anthony Towns' injury are 2 things that, to me, were very noticeable. So here's what I want to do on the show today. Al Harrington, 1 o'clock. Connor Daly, 1:30. Alex Palou, 2 o'clock. 2:30. We've got Santino Ferrucci. First off, if you are listening on a holiday, it is much appreciated. To me, it was critically important that we do the show today because of the Pacers and because of the 500 and because I was hoping that we would get the winner on, which we're getting with Alex Palou. I also understand there might be many of you at the 500 that went to the race or watched the race or listened to the race that had questions about it or want to discuss something about it or want to know what happened to somebody over the course of the day. I can't promise that I will know every answer, but I'll do my best. And we'll talk Pacers as well. So basically open forum at 239-1070. I'm not going to lie to you. And the bosses would kill me for this, but I'll admit it to you. Last couple of weeks, bit of a blur. I'm thrilled and privileged and honored to be able to do all of it, and I love it more than life itself. I live for the last 2 weeks. I live for it. And this week can be kind of depressing because it's a letdown after everything in the magic of May. I love everything about it. But at the same time, it's a lot. I'm a little tired. So if you want to help me today and carry us a little bit, that's cool as well. But I'd love to answer your questions and discuss the race or the Pacers, and we'll do it next. 239-1070, the telephone number. Al Harrington and 30 here. Memorial Day on the Fan. Hello, winner of the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, going to join us coming up 2 o'clock today. 239-1070 is the telephone number. We got racers and pacers to discuss. I will begin with Steve talking about the race. Steve, how are you?
I'm good. Great job. Always good to be back in Indy. Always good to hear you on the network and on local radio as well. Regarding the race yesterday, there were two drivers, and I realize that drivers are not allowed to throw their crews under the bus, so to speak, but I felt like Ryan Hunter-Reay had a really good fuel strategy and a really good car, and his crew did him no favors. And you're going to have Connor on later, and I'll tell you what, Connor seemed to have a really good car, and they kept saying, save fuel, and he was screaming at his crew on the radio, it's not working, it's not working. Come on, you guys, this isn't working. I felt like those two crews did their drivers absolutely no favors. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree on two counts, and I'm curious. And by the way, Steve, you said good to be back in Indy. Where do you live now?
It's not my real name. We're familiar with each other. I live in Sarasota now.
Oh, nice. And so you enjoyed the 46-degree weather yesterday, did you?
I'm on a flight tomorrow and can't wait.
Smart. It was actually like 62. Cold. But let me tell you, from high atop the Northeast Vista, it was like 46 degrees. Steve, travel safely, by the way. Back to Sarasota. I'm using air quotes with Steve. Okay, so with Ryan Hunter-Reay, again, I go back to that Dreyer and Reinbold team, and they had outstanding strategy. I mean, he was in that. He had managed through creative fuel stops, if you will. He had managed to put himself in position through fuel strategy and the rotation of it to get in that lead pack. But the problem, again, the wrong word, I guess, but the challenge with teams that only do this for one race a year is you have the number of people that have to hop over the wall and work on the car, that you just have the challenge there of getting clean stops. And with Hunter-Reay, it was a long stop that did him in. In addition to that, the other thing that comes into play in Connor's case with that Juncos Hollinger car, he had a really good car, but in the second to last stint, I think, whatever, and I'm just going to guess, we'll talk to Connor and I'll ask him, but I think what did in Connor Daly was they had some sort of an aerodynamic setup that just did not agree with that car at all, and he dropped like a stone. I mean, at one point when he got – and there were not a lot of passes that took place. There were no passes in the last 14 laps in the top 10 yesterday, I don't believe. But Connor Daly, once he was running up front, and then once he fell like a stone and literally had like 5 or 6 cars that passed him in a 2-lap stint. And that shows you right there that the car was off. All right, from Racers, Alex, hang on because I'm going to get to you as well. Back to Pacers. We'll go to Eric. Eric, how are you?
Hey, Jake. How you doing?
Eric, I'm well. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Your thoughts on the game last night?
Well, I like the way we came out, obviously, but...
By the way, is this my regular Eric?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
For those that don't know, let me point this out, Eric. I feel compelled to give the backstory here. You are, and I mean this sincerely, it is my belief that you are the most astute observer of the Pacers of any call. No disrespect to any other caller, but you are as fine-tuned of watching the Pacers as anybody, and of people that I have taken to games and enjoyed having conversations with at games, you are the top of the list.
Well, right on, Jake. I appreciate it. I try.
That's all we can do in life, Eric. All right, so your thoughts on the game?
Well, I've watched every playoff game throughout the playoffs so far, and the one thing that I feel like everybody's played pretty well and everybody has their moments. The one player to me that just hasn't had their moments at all is Matherin, and it's gotten to the point to where Shepard's taking a lot of his minutes, and it's almost like Matherin's.
What's the doggie's name, Eric? What's the doggie's name?
That's my mom's dog. Her name's Purdy.
Purdy?
She's staying with us for a minute.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yep, dog sitting.
Okay. Purdy sounds like a good girl, right?
That. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, back as you were. No, Mathurin, Eric, are we getting to the point where they need to question Mathurin within the rotation until he can kind of get right again?
Well, this is what I think, and I've thought this for a few years, and even dating back to the trade of Siakam. I've always felt like Mathurin, for whatever reason, we like to play him as small forward. And when somebody's 6'4" in the NBA, that works at times. So like last night, you're looking at the lineup that was in there with McConnell and Nembhard and Mathurin, and the Knicks are linky. The Knicks are a linky team. Josh Hart's tall, OG Anunoby's tall, and I don't think you can run three guards like that. I mean, it worked. It's worked at times, but that's just too short of a lineup to go up against a team like the Knicks that have made adjustments, throwing Mitchell in there and starting to throw linky players in there. And I feel like if Mathurin don't give you something real soon, then Jarris Walker needs to take his minutes. Jarris Walker,
Eric, I agree with
more
that.
The floor.
Eric, I totally agree. I appreciate it. And give Purdy a pat for me, by the way. I totally agree on Jarris Walker. I said that earlier. Walker, to me, has the size that can contend with, and I think he might give you a little more defensive tenacity than Mathurin. And Mathurin does, to Matherin's credit, he's picked up his defense a little bit and his tone. But in terms of pacing, Walker, to me, why not? Walker has shown late in the year that when you get him, and maybe he needs a few more minutes to get going, but when he does, I think he can be a contributor. Alex, back to the race. Hey, Alex, what's up?
Good afternoon, Jake. And I just want to tell you, first of all, a longtime listener via the podcast and the internet. I just left the Speedway, headed back home to Knoxville, Tennessee.
No, wait, you just left the Speedway like this morning?
Yeah, I just pulled out of the museum parking lot a few minutes ago.
Did you camp out?
No. We have family here. This was my 49th Indy 500 in a row. I've never been in any other city on Memorial Day other than the city of Indianapolis, and we have family here. We have a group of 70 people on race day in Grandstand J, and so this is our Memorial Day weekend, and tradition for it. And like I said, I'm headed home to Knoxville. And love listening to you. And just a couple of comments. I know you had the first caller talked about Ryan Hunter-Reay, and when he had that long pit stop, listening on the radio on the scanner, they could not get the car restarted. Ryan could not get the car started using the hybrid system, and they could not get the car refired for a long time, and I don't know if it was a mechanical issue. But
that might have been mechanical. That was his backup because his car caught fire on Carb Day. Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe to credit to the team, maybe I should not have thrown that on the team. That might have in fact been a hybrid issue.
It could have been something, and I know Connor was complaining his last stint. They did change some wing stuff and he was complaining that he wore out the right rear tire, like you talked about. Aerodynamically, in the middle of the pack, the car did not handle as well. But my thing, and I wanted to ask you about this, and we had 4 or 5 different cars that had rear brake issues, and that's really surprised me. I can't remember the last time you heard somebody have a problem when it came to rear brakes, like Dixon and Renus VK and Schwartzman. They all had brake issues, and this surprised me. I wanted to get your take on that. Didn't know if you talked to anybody about that after the race yesterday. And hey, I would love it if you guys could continue to do Beyond the Bricks on a weekly basis.
I appreciate that. On a weekly, I would love it, but it'd be tough on a weekly just because there are so many things going on, right? Let me throw this first. In terms of the issues with the brakes, I recall the year, and I think it was either 2016 or 2021. I thought maybe it was 2021 when there were several cars that had front brake issues coming into the pits notably. I remember, I think it was Simona had it happen, Steph Wilson had it happen, I think Will Power had it happen, all in the same race. In terms of the rear brakes, my guess would be, and I don't know, Alex, I'll have to ask and find out. I'll ask Connor, or we have Connor, Palou, and Ferrucci, all three coming on today. So a chance I can ask them. But it may well be that the weight of the hybrid when at those speeds over the course of time sensitizes the brakes. I mean, Dixon's brake fire was very early, though, so I don't know if it was that attrition. I will have to ask. It would be disingenuous for me to say that I know for certain what that would be. But you are correct. That and fires in general seemed to be more prevalent yesterday than overall. Also, somebody wrote in via text, what do I think would have happened with Joseph Newgarden if they had not had the fuel pump issue? I think Newgarden would have been right there to win the race. I think Newgarden, if you look at it, I watched him on Carb Day. I watched him yesterday. He was able to put his car wherever he needed to go, and he was very methodically picking his way up. Castroneves had mentioned to us on Carb Day, in order to win the race, you've got to be in the top 10 by lap 80, in Castroneves' opinion. Now, Castroneves was running 10th on lap 80. For Newgarden, I think it was try to get up into the top 16 or 17 by the halfway point of the race. And if you look at I can't remember what lap it was that he went out, but he was running 7th. He put himself right there. And when he was running 7th, there were 2 in front of him that were off sequence. So organically, he was running like in the top 5. And that car was flat hooked up, and he could go anywhere he wanted with it. I know people probably didn't want this reality, but I thought it came down to the 2 that I said going into it were going to win was Newgarden or Palou. And I think Newgarden would have been right there. Steve and Bill will get to you as well on the other side. Al Harrington in 15. Al Harrington, 12 minutes from now, talking about the race and the Pacers. Ryan Hunter-Reay, I had forgotten this, and I apologize. I mean, I'm not offering any excuses here, right? But simply explanation. I mean, when you're in the turns, obviously, I'm not privy to. I hear a lot of times when there's a pit problem or a pit report, I've got intercoms or we're talking about other stuff that's going on while the pit guys are talking. So I missed this part of it from Hunter-Reay. and then went to the game last night and was focused on that. But Hunter Ray had an issue where he had a fuel line issue. Same thing that probably did in Newgarden, because Newgarden was a fuel line. But in Hunter Ray's case, a fuel line issue where they ran out of fuel coming in, and then once they ran out of fuel, the fuel engagement wouldn't restart the engine. So that might have been that their fuel strategy, they went one lap too long. But either way, they did a hell of a job of getting up towards the front, no question. Back to the Bill, we'll get to you back to the race up front with Steve. Steve, what's up?
Jake, always great to talk to you. First of all, always appreciate you remembering the significance of today. And I would just like to take a moment to remember my high school and college classmate, Marine Captain William Hurley, who was killed in a midair helicopter crash over the Arabian Sea in Operation Desert Shield, and his remains lie at the bottom of the Arabian Sea.
Okay, William Hurley, correct?
Correct.
You know what, Steve? Real quick, you ready? I'm going to ask
Ready.
you to do something with me and give me 5 seconds here if you could, okay? We should have done this early, but probably most people have a loved one or someone who was lost who gave the ultimate sacrifice like William Hurley, so we're going to give 5 seconds to think about him, okay? Okay. So thank you for that. As for the race itself, Steve.
Hey, first of all, you were right. The crowd was amazing yesterday. I saw people standing where I never have seen people stand before. My question about the race is, what caused McLaughlin to lose control there on the parade lap and give Roberto Guerrero some relief now?
Great question, and I think it's the same answer, frankly, Steve, and that is that it's interesting because cooler temperatures, there's a very like fine line of what air you want for the engines and the tires themselves. If you watch at the race, I used to always, when I was a kid, get so captivated on the parade and pace laps of watching the cars weave back and forth, and I always thought it was just because they were, trying to look cool and sporty and, getting excited, whatever else. They're trying to get heat generated in those tires because tires are just like blue jeans. When you buy a pair of blue jeans and they're stiff and they still have the sticker on them, you got to wash them in hot water a couple times before they soften up, and now they're really comfortable and you kind of can move wherever you want on the tires. The same thing happens with tires when they get out in the race. You got to put some heat in those tires to soften that rubber up a little bit and gives you a little more grip. So you're moving your car around to soften those tires up and get some heat in them. Problem is when it's really cold like that, while the engine loves it because it keeps the engine nice and cool and it keeps cool air going through the radiator and it keeps the temperatures down and your oil temperatures, all of it, right? The problem is the engine loves it. So the engine's saying, let's go, 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 go. Come on, let's play. And the tires are going, hang on, I just woke up. The tires on a cold day, the tires are the parents on Christmas morning and the engine is the kid on Christmas morning. And so in McLaughlin's case, that balance, you never know what's going to happen. And when he hit the accelerator for just a second and turned the wheel to try to get his car warmed up for the tires, the engine said, all right, let's go. And the tires hadn't woken up yet. And so as a result, the grip wasn't there, and it spun the car around, and he made contact. Bill, how are you, Bill?
Jake, how you doing, my friend?
Bill, I can't believe. Turnbuckle Bill, brother. What'd you think of that game last night? Probably disappointed, right?
Well, very much so, especially since we executed what I thought was something that was crucial, and that number one, get out to the lead and kind of take the Knicks out of their game, and then number two, getting Brunson in foul trouble. And believe me, there's no D in Brunson. So, you're
not lying.
The fact that that he in a way is a liability. And I watched that game last night, and I started to think, are the Knicks a better team without Brunson? I mean, he's a clutch player, fantastic, scores pretty much at will, but they're a whole different. I mean, I thought he was channeling Melvin Brogdon, the way that he dribbles out the clock. And
it's interesting, Bill, because it feels like, and I appreciate the call. I was talking to the Knicks fans in front of me about this. I think the world of Jalen Brunson. He has unbelievable body control. He's a very good offensive player. He has very good vision of the angles, both in passing and off the glass, those kinds of things. and he can play through contact. But at the same time, Jalen Brunson is, you're right, he's not a great defender, number one. And number two, because he is very, I'll say, ball dominant, I think their offense, talking about the New York Knicks, flows better without him on the floor. He's a wonderful player, but in terms of the versatility of their offense, it seems like they get going a little bit when he's not there. Because they are forced then to move the ball around, and it gets more guys incorporated. Cindy. How are you, Cindy?
I am a little stunned.
From which one? The game or the race?
Oh, I'm sorry. The game.
I know.
This is Cindy Denise.
Cindy, you sound, if you don't mind me saying so, you sound borderline disheartened and dejected.
Yeah, I was definitely.
Did you just leave the field house? Are you like Steve, who just left the Speedway? Did you just leave the field house like an hour ago because you've been sitting there incredulously for the last 12 hours?
Close. I just woke up not that long ago because I was just like, my body was beaten and I was sore and tired. And
tell me about it.
Was a rough night.
Did you double dip? Did you go to the race and the game?
No, I was not able to go to the race. If I go to the race, it
Query and
I'm
Company
like
on 93.5 and
time
107.5.
Hang on just a second, Cindy. Sorry, but I don't know what Atticus. What are you doing over there?
I hit a button. That's on me. I'm
Cindy,
making you miss it.
I'm sorry, Cindy. So you went to the game, right?
No, I couldn't get tickets, Jake. You're going to have to hook me up because, yeah, my pre-sale price wasn't that great since I'm not a full season holder, but, that's another conversation. So price me out of the building because I figure if I have to watch the monitors, I'd rather be home.
Okay, fair. Now, Cindy, here's the thing. They have adjustments to make, no question, but it was one game, right? It was one game. If they get back and they win Tuesday and they're up 3-1, you still feel pretty darn good about it. But it would have been nice to get the sweep.
Exactly. I mean, my biggest concern is going back and trying to get one again in New York.
That's why you got to win. That's why you've got to win Tuesday night, because if you don't win Tuesday night, you give home court back to New York, and then you're in trouble. Cindy, get some coffee, but you have no idea. I am very appreciative that you have made this program part of your getting up and going and getting heat in the tires to start your day here. That sounded really the wrong way, but you get what I'm saying. Al Harrington, by the way, former Pacer, former Knick, joins us next. Did not realize before we talk basketball. So your mom lives in Indianapolis, obviously, then, right?
Yeah, my whole family. Like, obviously, when I got drafted, I was only 18 years old. So I needed the support. So obviously I stayed with Antonio, the first year, but then that next year, I convinced my mom and dad to move out here, and they moved here and set up shop here. So they've been living here since 1999.
I've always found this interesting in the fact that, professional athletes realistically have the option, to kind of live wherever they like. And I'm always interested that the number of players that do choose, even post-career for themselves or in your case their family, to live and stay in Indianapolis. Why is that?
I mean, it's obviously a great place to, raise a family. I consider it the easy living here. You know what I'm saying? You don't have the pressure of keeping up with the Joneses and all those kind of things. So, it's just been a great, community for my family. And, once to your point, like, obviously I moved from here, moved to different places from, San Francisco to Atlanta to even New York, you know what I'm saying? But my mom was always just comfortable, and my family was always just comfortable just visiting. They felt like this was home for them, and, they've been here ever since. So, I have 2 brothers and a sister. They're all here with families and everything. So everybody kind of set up shop in Indianapolis.
Okay, so Al, let's get to the game last night. You played for both franchises. Do you find yourself almost having like tugged heartstrings in this particular series, or are you Pacer through and through?
I mean, I definitely have tugged heartstrings a little bit, just from the standpoint that, like, when I was a kid, I was a diehard Knicks fan. I'm from New Jersey. I had every pair of Patrick Ewing sneakers on the ad, and, even watching all the struggles that we had with beating the Indiana Pacers, you know what I'm saying? I mean, even to the tune of the night I got drafted, and I got drafted to the Pacers, I was like, damn, I got to play with Reggie Miller, you know what I'm saying? Because I had grown to hate Reggie, you know what I'm saying? And then obviously, as soon as I get to the team, our first 2 playoff appearances, you know what I'm saying, we played the Knicks in the conference finals. First year we lost to the 4-point play, and then the second year we actually won and went to the finals against the Lakers. So it was one of those things where, like, obviously, the love I have for the Pacers is, through and through. This is the place that gave me my first opportunity, is where I grew into a man, and like I said, my family roots are still here. So it's definitely tough, but I love my Pacers, and I want my Knicks to do well as well.
When you look, Al, you could offer good perspective on this. Tell me the difference as a young player. And I remember, I mean, obviously when you were a young player, you were on a roster there that was pretty loaded, but that's not to say that you didn't get your reps and your rotation, because you did. But the difference for a young player, and I'm talking specifically a Benedict Mathurin or a Jarris Walker, I'll use those 2 examples, similar position to you as well. The difference between the regular season and then what is demanded in terms of energy of the postseason. How long did it take you as a young player to navigate through and figure that out?
I mean, the only way you can navigate it, understand it, you got to play through it. You know what I'm saying? You have to experience it. You have to realize, like, the level of intensity and different things like that. When you're kind of sitting there watching, it still just kind of looks like the game. You know what I'm saying? But when you get in there, and then when you get into these series and you realize that, by game 4, should have been by yesterday's game, you literally know everything the other team's running. You know what I'm saying? It comes down to, like, who can out-execute. You know what I'm saying? Who can get that angle? Who can get there just a little bit quicker? You know what I'm saying? And the only way you can get that experience is, like I said, is by playing. But, watching also helps, right? Because you kind of get in tune a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You kind of feel the intensity. But until you can get out there and play through it, you know what I'm saying? That's the only way you can, experience is the best teacher.
Now, Al Harrington, our guest, by the way, who was a member of the Pacers from 98 to 04, then back again from 06 to 07. As you watched that game last night, and I believe you had your son with you, right? Or was it a nephew? It was your son, right?
My son.
So I realize you're there as a dad, and you're enjoying seeing your old teammates and that kind of thing. But as you watched the game itself, and in particular, you saw New York take away and erase that 20-point lead. What was different about what Indiana was doing in building that lead, and then what New York was able to do to erase it?
I mean, I think that, I don't think that Indiana in particular did anything different, right? I mean, they play with pace, right? They play the same way. They get the ball up the court. They try to find good shots. I think the biggest difference last night was Karl-Anthony Towns. You know, he just took over the game, honestly. You know what I'm saying? For him to score 20 points like that, I mean, to score 14 points over a 4-point period, over 4 minutes, was just something that, you know, you can't prepare for, you know. And at one point, it felt like they were trading baskets, right? So it seemed like it was going in the Pacers' favor, but it actually wasn't, right? It was kind of helping those guys build momentum. And I think that with the Pacers, you know, sometimes, you know, they don't kind of have – it seems like they don't kind of have like a go-to play where they know or even – I'm not going to say player, but it seems like they don't have a go-to where they know they can definitely get a bucket right here. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what, you know, came down to bite them. You know what I'm saying? And then you get Brunson back in, and he comes in, and I think he gets 2 baskets or, you know, a basket and some free throws or whatever, which is he's their closer. You know what I'm saying? It was just tough for us to come back from. But I think that, you know, I think that Game 4 is going to be another close game. I think all of these games are going to be close games. I don't think there will be a blowout in this series. So it's just going to come down to who can out-execute, you know, in the last, you know, really like 2 minutes of the game.
Did you, as a player, so take me through the psychology of this, okay? Pacers win the first 2 in New York. They take away home court. Now New York has a chance to get that back if they are to win Game 4. So the Pacers, but theoretically, numerically speaking, you think, okay, Pacers win Tuesday. They're up 3-1. It's going to be real tough for New York to win 3 in a row. You probably, I don't know if you've been on both sides of that per se, but as a former player, there is more pressure on which team tomorrow night?
It's all on Indiana. You know, they can't, you know, they couldn't go to New York and win both of those games and come back home and lose and drop both games, right? You know, home court advantage is supposed to be a real thing. So I think that if for some reason the Knicks do win that game, I think then, you know, Game 5, you know, Knicks have all the momentum, and, you know, then there's even more pressure, you know, on the Pacers because they dropped 2, you know, especially when they, you know, they had a Game 1 last night, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, in this league, it's very difficult to play with a lead, right? Especially because of the 3-point ball, especially because they play so fast. You know, because, you know, back in my day, a 20-point lead pretty much guaranteed a win, right? In this league, a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter isn't even safe. You know, so I would definitely say that all the pressure is on Indiana tomorrow, but, you know, I think they got what it takes. You know, they're just going to have to, you know, play a complete game.
By the way, you became a 3-point specialist for a while there late in your career, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to. I had to evolve with the game.
I mean, it was impressive and it's so funny, Al, because when you entered the league, you know, I think the league changed during the course of time that you were there, right? Because you come in at 6'9" in the late 1990s, and that was still, you know, power forward level play, right? But at the same time, and Bender, I think, falls into this a lot as well. And I think the Pacers kind of saw that positionless basketball was coming, and so. Yeah. You know, by the time you left the league, it was positionless, right? I mean, you really did see a transformation in the way the game was played.
Yeah, I mean, when I came in the league, you know, my size was kind of a position where it was more of a negative, right? It was more of like, you know, where does he play? He's too big to be a 2-guard, and he's too small, or, you know, too small to be a 4-man. So he kind of fell into the 3-man spot, but then not. You know what I'm saying? So. Yes, we did see the transition. You know, I would say, like, you know, the people that was kind of the spearheading that was like, you know, Dirk, Antoine Walker, myself. You know what I'm saying? We the ones that kind of changed that 2 through 4 kind of position, and, you know, definitely had to start stretching the court. You know, especially because, you know, you had the big guys like Shaq and Rick Smith and all those guys, so you needed to surround those guys that were dominant with shooting. And, you know, now it's evolved to now, to your point, there is no center really, right? I mean, you look at Karl-Anthony Towns, he's out there literally playing like a guard. The way he's driving the ball.
He's shooting from 30 feet out. Effort. Yeah, it's unbelievable, right?
Yeah. So now it's truly, with centers playing like that, now it's truly positionless basketball out there now.
Okay, last 2 things. Number 1, I want to know which former teammate that you ran into or talked to from those great Pacer teams that people here love so much, notably the finals team. Which one did you most enjoy running into last night, or do you see them all the time?
No, I don't see him all the time, but, you know, I think it's always Rick Smith. You know, just seeing the Dunkin' Dutchman, man, he was always like a great soul, man, you know, And one that somebody that was very supportive of me. But like the Reggie, I see Reggie all the time. I see Antonio and Dale all the time. I've seen Travis. I hadn't seen Travis in a while until I saw him for NBA All-Star, 2 years ago. But so I would say it would be Travis and Rick Smith.
Was Smith a good leader? Because he seems like he would have been kind of a quiet dude.
He was very quiet, but the way he led was the fact that we just saw that he battled through so much foot pain to go out there and play and give us everything he had. And, everything he had took us to a finals. You know what I'm saying? But then he ran up against a young, in his prime Shaq that, just kind of was a little too much for him. But, just seeing how much treatment he was getting, all the sacrifice he was making, knowing his body was beat to trash, but still going out there competing. And like I said, being a focal point of us making it to the finals is just something that I felt like he just led through, what he was doing every single day.
Okay. And then lastly, and I hope I get the name right on this, Al, is it Viola or Viola in terms of the pronunciation?
Viola. Yeah, it's Viola.
So Viola Brands is the company that you started, a cannabis company in honor of your grandmother. And correct. I just want to know if this is accurate, because this is the line I've been using for people for 5 years, so I need your permission. I tell people all the time, Al Harrington is now a business mogul. He's a genius, and he's now a billionaire. Is that true? Can I just keep going with you? Can I tell people you're a billionaire?
I'm not a billionaire. I'm good with genius and all that, but I'm not a billionaire yet. But hopefully, I can turn this company into a company that's worth a B. And I'm definitely working at it every day. Kind of the same mindset I had as a pro, man. Just get better every single day.
And you began this company how long now? It's been a couple of years. I mean, 7, 8 years?
I started in 2011. So we're
okay.
We're 14 years old this year or whatever, and we're expanding. A new market we're entering into is in the New York market, which I'm really excited about. So we'll be a vertically integrated business, which means we'll have cultivation, manufacturing, and retail locations. So really excited about opening up in New York, probably at the end of this year.
So basically, not unlike being a 6'9" guy that can shoot threes, you were kind of ahead of the game on this, is what it comes down to, right? I mean, honestly, because as this has become more expansive, you were kind of on the ground floor of it.
Yeah, in some instances I was too early, right? As they say, the pioneers kind of go through, the biggest headache, biggest struggle, end up with all the arrows in the back. But at the end of the day, it gave me a lot of experience, and 14 years later, I'm still in the space because, most of the people that started when I started are all, out of business. But, we've been able to create a brand, one that people can, recognize and support. And, we stand on quality and just going to continue to build on that.
All right, Al, are you going to be at Game 4?
I will be there.
All right, we'll look for you on the video boards and give you a big hand again. But I certainly, listen, it was the most unconventional and unprofessional way to get you to come on the show with me just bombarding you in the restaurant last night. So thank you for not only letting me do that, but also accommodating, talking with us today. Appreciate it.
No problem. Now you owe me a drink.
Hey, they're free in that restaurant, so no problem. I'll happily go get it for you. That's the easiest thing I've done all day, right? I'll be sure to get it for you coming up in Game 4. All right, appreciate it, Al. Man. Enjoy the time with the family. Al Harrington joining us on the Rhinegeist Brewery guest line, by the way. Rhinegeist Brewing, now in central Indiana, thanks to our friends from Zinc Distribution. But keep in mind, the Cincy Light, for example, I know people were enjoying that at the 500 last night, and the Truth IPA. We always go to the Rhinegeist Brewery guest line to find out the truth in what it is that we are talking about it. But good to hear from Al Harrington. And he's right. I thought Anthony Towns was big last night, and the Pacers just simply had no answer for him. I thought one of the things that they've wanted to do was just to kind of get in and get after Anthony Towns, and they kind of got away from that last night. He had 4 fouls for the better part of the last quarter and a half of the game, and he might have even picked up a 5th maybe, but they were never – he and Brunson both, they were never able to take advantage of the foul trouble there. Let's go to Jerry, who's been waiting patiently, and I appreciate him doing so. Jerry, I know you've been waiting for a while, man. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm tired, but I'm good.
Yeah, well, nice work yesterday.
What
a day.
Did you listen to the race at all?
I watched the race.
Okay.
And I followed it closely. And I wanted to comment on the tire debacle and also on a possible Penske conspiracy.
Okay.
First, on the tire, every team knew exactly the perils of no grip with those tires, because the low temperatures, the tires start out cold, and to get a cold tire up to temperature, you have to literally stretch the rubber. I know that sounds crazy, but if you could have a telephoto lens look deep into the tread during those swerves back and forth, you'd see that the tire is holding to the asphalt, and the weight of the car and the force of the car is stretching the tire out, and that stretch process is the only thing that builds heat.
Right.
If you're sliding, no heat at all. So it was a perfect cocktail because they hadn't practiced on bringing up cold tires. In warmer temperatures they had, and tires starting out warmer than they did yesterday. So they knew that was going to be a problem, but imagine what that light misting of water did to the track. You think it increased the grip at all in any way, shape, or form? No. Yeah, they got the water off the top of all the little pebbles. But again, if you took a telephoto or a microscope down to track surface, you would see that there were a million little tiny puddles of water lying just millimeters below the surface.
Yeah, that can be brought up a little bit through the constant speed and the heat of the tires going over it, right? It can seep them up
exactly.
A little bit. Yeah.
So all of the the McLaughlin thing, he will, unfortunately, that will scar him for life, because that was the biggest faux pas that you can make as a racer, and that was completely self-induced. He just exceeded the limits of the tire because the tires just had no grip at that point.
Well, it's like I said earlier. It's like, I don't know if you heard me earlier, Jerry, but I said the tires in the engine in cool temperatures, one is like the parent on Christmas morning, and the other is like the kid. One's like, let's go, and the other one's like, no. I got it. It's gonna take me time to wake up a little bit here. And
same thing with Schwartzman coming into the pits. He should have been warned, and he should have been ready. That was just he overturned the grip.
Okay, get me to your conspiracy, by the way. I'm not saying I'm going to agree with your conspiracy, but I'm going to allow you to voice your conspiracy.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So if you step back and look at the Penske cheating scandal, this, without a doubt, in my opinion, would be the most undressing that Roger Penske has ever had to endure. And he is such a man of honor and dignity and honesty. He has just never, ever been disgraced like this. And I think on top of that, knowing that last year's car is sitting in the museum with an illegal attenuator, the last thing he could let happen is for his team to win, because the backlash on that would be so incredible. So I really do think that somehow each driver was told, you can do whatever you want. You can go as fast as you want. You can pass as many cars as you want. But if you finish in the top 10, you're fired. So, because that fuel line thing, that was a black op, baby.
Hey, Jerry?
Yeah, it's Terry with a T, but go ahead.
Terry, sorry about that, Terry. I agree with everything you said until that you were doing, in all honesty, you were J.R. Hildebrand there, man. Like, you were doing really well until turn 4 on lap 199. You know what I mean? Like, no offense. I appreciate everything else, Terry, but I think this. I do think Newgarden was going to win the race. If Newgarden had not had that issue, and no, I don't think in any way, shape, or form, there is zero chance that they radioed down to Newgarden. They're like, hey, we're going to fake it like something's wrong with your car so you can get out, and you're not going to win 3 straight. You're not going to make history. You're not going to get $2.5 million, and you're not going to win another Indy 500. And we appreciate that you started 32nd, meticulously worked your way through the field, kept it clean, got yourself up into the 7th running position on lap 141 or whatever it was. But just go ahead and act mad and act disappointed. Now, maybe they didn't tell Newgarden, right? Maybe they just said to the team, you know what, you're fired. if I'm, you know what I would say in that point? Okay, well, if I know I'm fired, then I might as well be fired as an Indy 500 champion. So we're going to keep going with it. Let's go. Let's just stay out there. Boss man didn't. Come on, man.
Did you see who won the NASCAR race? Ross Chastain from the very back of the field. Could you imagine if Newgarden and Chastain both?
Yeah, on the same night?
On the same
day. Now, Kyle Larson, if you were going to throw a conspiracy, Terry, how about this one? Kyle Larson's like looking at his watch. Oh, man, you know what? I'm running 17th. Nobody said my name all day. I'm not making many passes. I got to get to Charlotte, man. And, yeah, I mean, look, Stingray Robb and Kiffin Simpson, two guys that a lot of people call ride buyers, but I think have done a pretty good job. I mean, yeah, I might wipe them out. But I'm just going to go ahead and park this bad boy in because in turn 2 also, so I can just hop over the wall and get on the helicopter and get the hell out of here. Now, there's no way that's the possibility. There's no way that's what happened, but it's a fun conspiracy theory, right? No way that happened on either one of those. Now, I don't know if is Terry an asphalt engineer or how about Goodyear yesterday flying the Goodyear blimp over a race where Firestone is the sole tire manufacturer?
I thought the same thing. So funny.
And it didn't look like the real Goodyear blimp, did it? Has Goodyear come out? Do they have a new blimp? Whenever I think of the Goodyear blimp, I think of the one that looks kind of like the Hindenburg. And that one that was flying around looked more like a balloon that was painted like the Goodyear blimp.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Do you know what I'm saying? It was a smaller version. It was at the parade also. It was in the parade. And how about Alex Palou wearing a Tyrese Halliburton jersey in the parade? I mean, that's knowing your audience. That's good karma. That's what that is. Good karma, right? Now, the part about Penske knowing that it's a bad look if Newgarden wins the race, I'll disagree. Because I think if Newgarden had won the race, and it didn't happen, so it's a moot point, but if Newgarden had won the race, I think actually that would have looked like one of the most legitimate wins ever. Because everybody would have been saying exactly that. Everybody would have been saying, look, with the scandal about the attenuators and everything else, and Joseph Newgarden, and people can tell me that I'm an apologist or whatever. I'm not that. I'm a realist. I'm telling you right now, I would bet you 10-1 Joseph Newgarden had no idea about those attenuators. You know, I mean, does a driver really look at that closely before they get in the car as to what's going on? I don't think so. But for certain, for absolute certain, if he had won the race, there would have been questions about it, and so therefore it would have been literally the most legitimate win ever. No question about it. Absolutely no question about it. Coming up, by the way, Connor Daly yesterday, unbelievable run. And late in the race, something went awry. He's going to join us just a couple of minutes from now. As a matter of fact, we'll take a quick recess. We'll come back. Connor Daly joins us on the other side. All right, those of you with the radio in turn number 3, show them some Hoosier hospitality. Connor Daly of Noblesville, Indiana, leads the field of the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500.
He led 22 laps last year. Turn 4, stand up. Connor Daly has the lead.
That's how it sounded yesterday as Connor Daly led the field for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. All told, 13 total laps led and finishing in the top 10, 10th place. He joins us now on the Rhinegeist Brewery guest line. And Connor Daly, I will begin with this. Obviously, I've got questions about what went awry kind of to that point because it seemed as though the handling went away. But let's focus on the positive first. I thought just a great month for your team. You got the AM/PM sponsorship, which was a cool-looking car, and that Juncos Hollinger racing team just continues to try to work together to overcome odds to put you in a good spot. Take me through, if you will, say the first quarter of the race as it looked like you had a really good car, especially in traffic, to get you to the front.
No, I appreciate it, man. I think this whole month of May has been actually one of the most enjoyable that I've ever had in my career. And that's thanks to the team. I mean, they built us a really, really fast, just pure speed in the car. And that's what you always wanted at Indy. I mean, you can tune the handling all you want. You can work on the thing for, a full week. But sometimes it just doesn't have the raw speed to fight with those who are you're going to compete for the win against. And this one, it had it. And so, I mean, for the majority of the race, I mean, honestly, I was kind of just on cruise control and just enjoying, being up front. There was a lot of different, kind of craziness happening and wild restarts and, cold temperatures, crazy wind gusts. But it just kind of seemed like everything was just going the right way. And then I was fighting with the right people, and it was like, okay, we're just going to stay here. And obviously we had some deterioration in our car and some stuff that was going wrong in the rear end. But it was definitely one of those days that I truly thought, I was like, this is going to be it. Like, this is finally, we're finally putting ourselves in position to win the Indy 500.
You can explain this, Connor, for people that are not regular race fans or don't know the passing in terms of yesterday. The word that I've been heard, I've not been in a car. I mean, I've done a 2-seater, right? But I've never driven a car. You have, obviously. What was it that made it so difficult in a line of cars to pass versus years past where we have seen a lot of aerodynamic passing throughout the course of the field?
I mean, to be honest, I actually thought passing wasn't too bad. Like I in the first stint passed a couple cars, and but this car in particular, the edge was way easier to cross. You found yourself on the sidewall of the right rear tire, and this is probably the extra 110 pounds that we've got on the car. That certainly pushed the limit of control. And I would say the window of happiness with this car is wildly narrow now compared to ever before. I mean, I feel like you saw a lot of people in different levels of happiness with their cars at different points in the race. But I was quite thankful for ours for really the majority of the day. We weren't degrading much. We were having quite a solid day, making the wing adjustments we were making on the first 2 pit stops were quarter turns. I was trying to tell my mechanics to get a quarter turn of front wing out of the car, not even a half, not even a full turn. Sometimes back in the day, I remember saying, hey, I'd like more front wing, and we'd go 2 turns if we can, in or out. So, the window was super narrow. And, I mean, I think some cars were able to pass, some cars weren't. I mean, I sat with Alex Palou for the majority of the race, and even he looked like he struggled at times when we were kind of deep in traffic and some of the off-strategy cars were around us. And I felt like we were in an even better spot than he was. But obviously, we know at this event, everything has to be perfect. There can be no mistakes. There can be nothing that goes wrong on your car. You are not able to come back from a from a bad stint, it usually seems. So, we obviously had some mechanical issues towards the end that prevented us from being in the fight, but still to finish in the top 10 and be super disappointed with that, I guess is somewhat of a decent thing.
Why did we yesterday, Connor, somebody asked this and I didn't know the answer. Why did we see yesterday a higher number of, in particular, rear brake fires than we have in years past?
Well, what you saw immediately was trying to generate temperature for the tire, right? So you saw Scott McLaughlin have his issue before the green flag even flew because it was so cold. And, we're doing our best in the car to use the brakes to warm the inside of the tire so we can use them more efficiently. But, yeah, I don't know why other than that. I mean, temperature in these tires is so important. And you could definitely tell that, as soon as we went yellow or as soon as we were, the tires cooled down at all, you really had to work hard to warm them up. So that's what I saw at least. It was definitely surprising to see what happened to Scott Dixon for sure.
When you're out there, look, it wasn't freezing by any stretch, but for an Indy 500, it was obviously cold, right? I mean, I had a Patagonia and a winter hat on up at the top of turn 3. What about from inside the cockpit? I would imagine for you guys it feels great, right?
Yeah, obviously for us, sign us up for those races all day long. The temperature is quite nice. But it also does, I would say the cooler temperatures for these cars this year made them a little bit more pointy, made them a little bit more loose. So you saw several cars, fighting that. Certainly I was fighting that. I saw other cars fighting that. It was definitely just different conditions, right? Normally we go into the race and you're like, oh, it's going to be 95 degrees and we got to figure out how much downforce we can pile on it because it's going to be so hot and greasy. This time you were like, oh, it's cold, so the front's going to have a ton of grip, and we got to figure out, there was less talk of trimming during that race than ever before. We certainly weren't thinking about it, and it seemed like everyone was kind of, if anything, wanting to add downforce.
Connor Daly's our guest, 10th place yesterday in the Indy 500. He's on the Rhinegeist Brewery guest line. Connor, let me give you the observation from afar, right? It seemed as though in that, and I can't remember which stint it was, maybe second to last stint of the race. For those that are unfamiliar, stint is the period of laps between pit stops. But you had a really good car. You had led. You were still in that front 4 or 5. And then all of a sudden, in about a 5-lap stretch, there were 3, I think, that got past you. Palou got past you. Maybe Malukas got past you. Looked like your car got away from you a little bit, and then you were able to kind of all of a sudden dial the car back in and get back into a groove where you were then consistent again and kind of run at the position that you were then holding. What took place aerodynamically, if anything, that caused that quick fall and then the quick handle on it back once again?
Honestly, I felt it as soon as we put that second to last set of tires on. There was something in the rear of the car that just was not acting how it did basically the whole race. And as soon as we started that stint, actually, it was when I was leading, and everyone was just saving fuel. Honestly, when Alex Palou got to the lead and you saw me make that move to pass both him and David Malukas, that's because they both hit the brakes. And honestly, I didn't want to take the lead either. I had lifted, but then I saw Louis Foster, which, he's a rookie. I didn't really want to necessarily get trapped 5th car in line or 4th car in line. So I kind of just tripped into the lead. It was not – Alex Palou literally hit the brakes like on the back straight because he didn't want to lead. I actually don't know why he took the lead in the first place, but I think it was the right move to then stay ahead because you can kind of control your own destiny a little bit more. But on that stint, I could immediately tell that something was off in the car. We had started to develop a little bit of understeer, but then all of a sudden the balance completely flipped and the vibrations became absolutely severe in the rear of the car. And that just doesn't happen. Normally in this race, the car gets better as you go because the track's developing more grip. But we clearly, my engineers have been looking at the data and they've been able to see that, something had gone wrong in the rear of the car. And so it became a real challenge. And honestly, we had to pit to get off that set of tires one lap earlier than we would have liked to. So then that became an even more difficult fuel saving number for the last stint. And we were only okay for the first 5-6 laps maybe of that last stint before the tires started to develop another vibration. And it's not the tires' fault. The dampers are so important. And I talked to Will Power again this morning. He's like, man, it's just so important to have those things dialed in the whole race. And you know what? It's no one's fault. Like, this literally just happens. Like, we're pushing these cars to the limit. We're driving, at the absolute limit for 500 miles. That's the longest race we've got of the year.
I mean, Connor, rare is the driver that has a car that is perfect. I mean, you hear it. Like, when a guy wins the race, more often than not, a lot of times it's the guy that, like, his car just felt great the whole time. It's so rare, right, that a guy's like, man, the car just felt great from beginning to end. I mean, the car comes and goes over the course of 500 miles, right?
It's normally I would say yes. It would be a great day if you had a great car all day long. And the first half of the race, I was almost smiling in my helmet. Like, I was like, this is just exactly what I wanted. This, we were making small adjustments, and I could pass cars. I could follow along. I could save fuel where I wanted. I could tow up to other cars. I think we set fastest lap of the race pretty early on. Obviously, Elio then got it later on, but our car was just great. And but to win this race, you either have to be really lucky or everything has to go right, and you've got a fast car all day long. And Alex Palou was right in the fight all day long. They made the exact right decisions when he needed to, and it was very similar to when he actually lost the 500 to Elio, because he had some traffic in front of him that made it a little bit more difficult for Marcus Harrington, and he was able to take advantage of that. And then when you're fourth car in line, again, like we saw with Marcus towards the end of the race, really hard to make a move on that car that's third in line. So he played it exactly right. He's so smart. That team is so good at what they do, and they got the win.
Okay, lastly, Connor, I'm going to give you a trivia question here. You ready? Connor Daly, our guest. He's on the Rhinegeist Brewery guest line. All right. Frank Briscoe, Troy Ruttman, Joseph Newgarden, Mark Donohue, Jack McGrath, Buddy Lazier, Gilles de Ferran, Arthur Duray, Danny Ungaius, and David Bruce Brown. Do you know what all those guys have in common?
That's quite a diverse list, so no.
It is. David Bruce Brown raced in 1911 and 1912, right? Obviously some winners in there. Gilles de Ferran, Buddy Lazier, Mark Donohue, Joseph Newgarden, Troy Ruttman, right? Okay, how about this list to add to that? Eddie Sachs, let's see, Eddie Sachs, as well as Cliff Bergier, who's a pretty big name from years past, Louis Schneider, Jacques Villeneuve, Gaston Chevrolet, and Joe Dawson. The answer is this. The first list, you passed all of them yesterday on the all-time laps led list. The second list are other former winners and or notable racers that are now behind you in the all-time laps list, laps led list. I realize that you are car number 76. Your teammate is car number 77. You are now 78th all-time in all-time laps led at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. When you consider the fact that there have been, 820 drivers to run out there, that's pretty darn cool.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I know I was tied with Joseph Newgarden going into this race, so I wanted to definitely make sure I led more laps, but also just led the right laps. Sadly, we still haven't led the right laps. So honestly, man, though, this race, and this is thanks to the team and our sponsors, AMPM and ARCO, and honestly Chevrolet. It just really. It made me feel like I really could win this race more than ever, and to be this disappointed. Last year when we finished 10th with Dreyer, I mean, that team did such a great job, and it was such a fun race. But this race, finishing 10th, I was like, that is just a gut punch, because I thought we should have for sure been in the battle for that podium with David Malukas, who did a great job as well all day, and Alex Palou. But hopefully I get another shot at this race. Obviously, my future, I never know what I'm going to do, basically weekend by weekend. So I hope I can get another shot at it. And I truly believe I can win this race.
I'm sure he was a good dude, and he lived on Illinois right by the Children's Museum. But it almost seems unfair that Joe Dawson led 2 laps in his entire life at the Indy 500 and he won the race, right?
I mean, that's got to be pretty cool, I assume.
It is pretty cool, right? Like
That's what you want to do with your life.
he led the two that mattered the most, right? Then he went home right on Illinois Street and had a peanut butter sandwich, as legend has it. Connor Daly, appreciate the time, man. I know it's a very busy time. I'm a total moron because I asked you last week if you come on, and you're like, yeah, dude, we're practicing then. And I'm like, oh, that's right. The days all blur together. So on this day, and I know what Memorial Day means to you as an American as well, so I certainly appreciate the time today.
No problem. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate all the fans that came out all month long. The crowd this year was the biggest and best I've ever seen in my life. So it was really cool to see everyone out there.
It was unbelievable, no question. All right, Connor, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Connor Daly joining us on the program. Let's squeeze in Ike real quick because Ike had a question for us and has been waiting patiently, and we're going to get to the winner, Alex Palou, in about 20 minutes. Ike joins us to talk about the race. Hi, Ike.
Okay, how you doing?
I'm well.
I just
Yourself?
had one question.
Yes, sir.
I know this guy's retired, but I was waiting for some tidbits from Donald. I just hope y'all could squeeze that in sometime at the end of the race every year, just 4 or 5 minutes, so I can hear what Donald has to say.
You know, Ike, it's amazing because Donald Davidson, and I appreciate that. Donald, you know, and Donald as well, he's great. I've seen him several times, been very fortunate to be able to do that in the last month or so. And Donald, and I have the utmost respect for this. I think Donald is one that once he decided that he was retired, you know, he basically said, you know, hey, I'm retired now. It's funny because I think Donald had so much fun doing it for so long that once he walked away from it, just decided to keep that legacy as it was. But he is a beloved figure of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The reality is there's no one like him, right? I mean, it really is remarkable.
I mean, he has all the intricate details of all the historical facts about what's going on every year. That's why I just wanted to see if y'all could squeeze him, man.
It's unbelievable. I've asked him, Ike, Mike Thompson and I that do Beyond the Bricks, and I appreciate the call. Mike and I that do Beyond the Bricks, Mike is extremely close with Donald, as am I, but not to the level that Mike is, because Mike worked with him at the museum. And Donald is a dear, treasured friend, no question, and a dear, treasured part of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I've asked him on a couple occasions, hey, you want to come on? And he always just says, no, you know, I think you guys know a lot now, and you do a great job, and you have your stats in front of you. And so I'm content watching from here and listening to the race and enjoying it. And I have to respect that. I absolutely have to respect it. But there is no replacing him. No replacing him. Alex Palou, winner, the 109th Indy 500, 17 minutes from now. Jay Query here along with Nathaniel. Don't call me Atticus Finch. Do you mind me using that nickname that I've...
It's hilarious. I love it.
I believe, actually, Eddie Garrison, to me, refers to you as don't call me Atticus.
That's awesome.
It's not the first time you've ever heard that, right?
When you said it to me a couple of years ago, it was the first time.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it's your last name is Fitch or Finch?
Finch, yeah.
And the character is Finch, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, then that's forever your nickname to me now. Anyway, Nathaniel filling in. Eddie Garrison will be back tomorrow. A couple of house cleaning notes. First off, if you are just joining the program, Caitlin Clark out for a minimum of 2 weeks now. That announcement from the Indiana Fever. As a matter of fact, because this is the kind of guy that I am, I will read you exactly what the press release says. Indianapolis, May 26, 2025. Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark has suffered a left quadricep strain and will be out a minimum of 2 weeks, the team announced today. Further updates will be provided as available following re-evaluation.
#.
That's right. So that is the announcement from the Indiana Fever. Now, in terms of what that means for the Fever and their schedule, if we were to look at their schedule and what they have upcoming and how many games they have over the next couple of weeks, then you would look at the fact that because, standing at 2-2 right now, they're third in the East, their schedule over the next 2 weeks would be as such. They have a game on Wednesday in Washington. Then Friday, they host Connecticut. They host Washington on Tuesday. They have, as I'm looking at it here, 6 games over the next 2 weeks, ending with a game on Saturday, a week from this Saturday, I should say, against New York. So that is the way the schedule lays out for the Indiana Fever. Pacers last night, obviously disappointing against the Knicks, but the reality is this, and that is that if they, and we talked to Al Harrington earlier on the program, podcasts all available now at 1075thefan.com. You can hear our conversation with Al Harrington. You can hear our conversation with Connor Daly, both of them on the Rhinegeist Brewery guest line. Both of them we ask that you wait until 6 at the completion of John's show before listening to podcasts. But nonetheless, if you look back at that game last night, and Al Harrington said it, the pressure now kind of goes to Indiana because the Pacers do not want to have to go back to New York knowing that they have to win 1 of 2 in the Garden. So if you get game 3 here, or game 4, and you're up 3-1 going back to New York, then you try to steal game 5. If you don't get that, no harm, no foul. You come back here and you try to close it out at home. You don't want to have to go back to New York for a game 7. You just don't. Karl Anthony Towns last night I thought was outstanding, especially in the fourth quarter. He is such a unicorn in the fact that he almost shoots like flat-footed. It's like Manute Bol style shot from 30 feet out, but he has almost unlimited range. He is a massive individual, but he is more fleet of foot than you realize. And there is an ex-post tweet going around today that I agree with. I totally agree with this observation. I think Nathaniel does as well. Totally 100% agree with this tweet. Karl Anthony Towns, his first name is Karl Anthony, and his last name is Towns. I, like most, assumed his name was Karl Anthony Towns. That the last name was Anthony Towns. I assumed his mother hyphenated her, but the hyphenation is in his first name, Karl Anthony. Now that's not his first and middle name together, right? Because it's a hyphen. So does he have a middle name as well? Is his name like Karl Anthony Michael Towns? Can we look that up and know? Great player. He's a very, very good player, and he's a difficult player to contend with because just his size and, again, his mobility. It looks like his name literally is strictly Karl Anthony Towns. 2:05 is the scheduled time that Alex Palou, the winner of the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, is set to join us. Connor Daly, who finished 10th in the race, joined us earlier, and Santino Ferrucci, who came home 5th, will join us at 2:30. Also, want to let everybody know before we get to Palou, Tim Kyle, and Darnell. Darnell seems to win every numbers game we ever have. Those are your 3 winners. Kyle has won a $200 gift card to our friends at Cluster Truck and their fabulous delivery of the best fresh, made when you order food for lunchtime, dinner, whatever it might be. Cluster Truck, $200 gift card going to Kyle because he drew Alex Palou in our numbers game. $100 to Darnell because he drew Kyle Kirkwood, who was the biggest mover in yesterday's race. I believe 17 spots is what he moved up from the beginning to the end of the race. And $25, it's either 25 or 50, I've got to look. But the third place to Scott McLaughlin, which is Tim. He was the first out. Alex Palou next.
And turn number 4 is set up a turn 1.
This is as close as he's been. He'll take a look to the inside, and Alex Palou sneaks around Marcus Harrington. That DHL car takes the race lead.
Right, the hot hand here of Cat. Towns 3. Good! What a shot!
Alex Palou, one turn left, but Erickson's not going to let him get away. It is a 3-car length advantage for Alex Palou out of 4.
And he is going to take the checkered flag. Alex Palou, with caution on the course, takes the checkered flag. Alex Palou wins the 109th Indianapolis 500.
Pacers and racers. And for the first time in the 109 runnings of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, a Spaniard has taken the checkered flag, even though he is now a Hoosier as well because he lives here in central Indiana. And he joins us on the program now. It is my honor and privilege to introduce the winner of the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, Alex Palou. Alex, I'm sure you have not slept at all. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm missing my voice, but I'm great.
You're allowed to miss your voice. I would imagine it's been be honest, I'm always fascinated by this. How much sleep did you get?
I actually got more sleep than I thought. I got like 4.5 hours. So it was, it was good enough to be recovered a little bit today.
Okay, let me tell you what I said earlier. The Indianapolis 500-mile race, to me, Alex, is the greatest race in the world, and I'll tell you why. It has no fluke winners. There are no winners of the 500. When you look at the list of winners of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, it is a reminder of those drivers that were the best of their era. And this was a long time coming for you. Maybe not a long time coming, but from the time that you got here, you've knocked on the door, and now everybody knows how you're the hottest driver in the series. But I want to go back to this. When you had the shootout with Helio Castroneves 5 years ago, and Castroneves 4 or 5 years, I guess 4 years ago. No, 5 years ago. 5 years ago. No, 4. Sorry, 4 years ago. But you get what I'm saying. When you had the shootout with Helio Castroneves and he got his 4th win, did you think about that yesterday, late in the race, in terms of your strategy?
Oh, absolutely, yes. It was a very similar scenario yesterday to what we had in 2021 with lap traffic cars in front of us, being part of the race at the end. And I was just trying to read the race as good as I could to try and get advantage of the traffic cars like Helio did very well in 2021. And I'm glad that it worked, man. I'm glad that it worked because I am very sure that those traffic cars made a difference on me winning yesterday.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about this. So a 2-part question. Late in the race, the last 14 laps, you've got Devlin DeFrancesco and Louis Foster running just in front of you. They're running a good pace. They're trying to maintain on the lead lap. You have Marcus Ericsson behind you. I've been told that the hybrid and just the weight of these cars make it so that if you're 4 deep in a line, it's very difficult for maneuverability. Did that factor in on your decision to not work around DeFrancesco or Foster and pursue moving in front of them?
Well, yeah, so basically with the added weight that we had now with the hybrid and also just the overall conditions out there on weather-wise, it was just very tough to follow the cars real close and also to overtake when you were like 3rd or 4th in line. So basically I went very early and I made the move because I knew that it was just going to get tougher for me to pass Marcus with the traffic cars in front of us. And then honestly, the traffic cars were going really fast. Like they had a really fast pace and it was going well for me. I couldn't really overtake them. I didn't really have enough speed or tires to get past them, but I'm glad that they helped me a little bit and they didn't they didn't screw me at all for getting that win at the end.
By the way, if you happen to have, please, Nathaniel, the breaking news sounder. I don't know, Alex, if you have seen this or not. I'm assuming you have. The NTT IndyCar Series has moved the 27 of Kyle Kirkwood, the 28 of Marcus Ericsson, and the number 90 machine of Calum Eilert to the back of the field for failing post-race technical inspection. That would have been very interesting, Alex, had things turned out differently, correct?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
I've got to make sure that this is a legit, in fact, and it is, tweet from the IndyCar Series 9 minutes ago. So Marcus Ericsson now. So I want to get to this, Alex, since I have you here. As a driver, when something like that happens, how aware are you of the technical aspect and setup of your car through inspection before and after, and the things that may be on that car as it goes through tech inspection?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, I think drivers, we don't really have much idea. We know about the setup, obviously, but we don't really know the components of the car and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's the first time that obviously I heard about that, but I'll dig deep into it and see what was going on. But yeah, I mean, we have strict rules, and as soon as you're out of the window, it's expected to be out of your position, and you need to be moved back.
Alex, I'm sure you've been asked this. You've had time to think about it. You've had time probably to rehearse the answer. But as a kid growing up in Barcelona, Spain, I don't know when it was that would have been the first time you were aware of the Indianapolis 500. But I think now living in Indianapolis, you're aware of what it means to us here. What does it mean now to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say my first Indy 500 was about when I was, I don't know, probably 10 years old, something like that. I was used to seeing my dad checking the race from home, and I just got interested, obviously, because it was very different to what I was used to back in Europe with the ovals and stuff. So, honestly, I thought I knew a little bit about the 500 before coming to the U.S., but being part of it the first year, the second year, and so on, I've been learning a lot more about the race. I've been able to know what it means for the people here and for everybody that it's working on in the IndyCar community and motorsport in general. So for me to be here today, it's super special. This year has been the most special year of my entire life. Like, this month of May has been incredible for me, with the support of so many fans that were on track all month long. So yeah, it's been incredible.
Okay, a couple of other things. Number one, brilliant move wearing the Halliburton jersey in the parade. I mean, brilliant, right? Not just for karma, but I mean, that, like, unbelievable. So I'm there with my girlfriend, right? She's the biggest Pacers fan on planet Earth.
Nice.
She now likes you more than me, meaning she likes you more than she likes me. But what was the thought process there? Where did you come up with the idea?
Well, it was basically, I mean, it's pretty clear that the city is hyped up about the Pacers. The Pacers are doing great, and we have a great opportunity in front of us. I mean, I'm cheering the Pacers, obviously. So I'm living here now in Indy. So for me, it's super special. I've not been a huge basketball fan, but it's growing in me as well, just living here. So I thought it was a great opportunity to be closer to the fans, and yeah, I mean, it worked out. So maybe I have to do the same all over again next year and wear the Pacers jersey from now on.
I mean, it was awesome. It was just such a great gesture. And then last night to see you at the game itself, I can only imagine the whirlwind of what your evening looked like. Several people wanted to know what happened to the flowers on the wreath, but I think a lot of them blew away because you wore it all the way on the celebration lap, right?
Yes, I did. I did.
Okay, then
but, there were still some flowers.
Oh, there were still some on there for sure, right? But, like, I mean, look, the wreath is, I mean, all of it is awesome, right? And that includes the milk. Now, I'm sure you were asked this, and Mike King, who was the longtime broadcast announcer on the radio network and the chief announcer, he texted me yesterday after the race and said, I want to commend Alex Palou for ending the tradition of dumping the milk over the head. Now, Elio started that back in 2002. So I want to know why no dunking and why just going with the big swig.
So it's actually because I had plenty of people in the paddock and a lot of fans, like those, diehard fans that have been coming here for like the last 40, 50 years that told me, if you win one day, please don't dunk the milk into your head. I told all of those that I didn't know what I would do that day, but I thought it was better to make a big sip of the milk and share it with the team, with my wife, with my daughter that was there, than just pouring it over my head and then smelling for the rest of the night.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think there were a lot of people that appreciated it. Even though there's a photo op there, I realize, but listen, many drivers have told me that winning it the first time, it's such a surreal experience that then they want to win it a second to be able to truly absorb everything that went into it. But you look like a guy that soaked in the moment, was aware of the moment, and respected the moment. And for that, I thank you, Alex. I congratulate you. And because you live here and because you got all of it and wore the jersey, I say to you, welcome to Hoosierville. You're now a Hoosier.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And, thank you to all the fans that have been supporting me so much all month and all season.
And the last tradition, Alex, on the way out before we go to Detroit, and I will bring it to Detroit, but I have a winner's helmet signed by every living winner of the Indianapolis 500 and 3 others, and it will ultimately go inside of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum someday. And so now you get the nuisance of having to sign my helmet along with every other man on planet Earth who has won the Indianapolis 500. So I will get in touch with you on
awesome.
that. All right.
I cannot wait.
Nor can I. That's the least professional thing I've ever mentioned on the radio. Alex, I appreciate it, man. We'll see you in Detroit.
Thank you so much. See you there.
All right. Alex Palou, winner of the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Good stuff. And, man, I can only imagine what that must be like in terms of the voice itself. So, very good stuff. By the way, they just sent me a thing saying to wrap, and I just saw it. So sorry about that if I ran a little over with IndyCar. Interesting on Marcus Ericsson's car. Very interesting. Can you imagine if Ericsson had won the race and then you find out that he failed tech inspection? What that would have gone into, right? Callum Ilott as well had a really good run. So this means now I've got to redo. Now here's the question, Nathaniel. We have a bit of a conundrum on our numbers game. Matter of fact, we need to play. We need to play a little people's court. I need somebody to call in right now at 239-1070 if you find that you are somebody who is of like rational, objective mind. Call in right now at 239-1070 because I need somebody to play judge and jury here in terms of our numbers game. And we have a conundrum. So we need an impartial panel to serve as the judge on this, the people's court. Literally not one. There we go. We have somebody calling in who can consider themselves. I always forget there's a delay when I say that. I need an objective observer to be a judge on a numbers game. I'm going to present to you the conundrum that we have here on Query and Company, and then somebody is going to make the decision on whether or not, okay, we have what we need to do in this scenario, okay? Now, who do we have lined up that sounds like an honest person? I've got to know whether or not they're an honest person. Craig is lined up. Craig, would you list yourself as an honest individual?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm Doug Llewellyn here. Okay, Craig, have you ever in your life, Craig, let me ask you this question, Craig. You go into the grocery store and you're at the self-checkout. You're buying 12 cans of tuna, okay? You walk out the door, you get in your car, you check your receipt, and you realize that it only scanned you for 11. Do you go back into the Kroger and let them know that you got a free can of tuna, or do you go ahead and just consider it their mistake?
I'm going to be real honest. I consider it their mistake.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hold on, Craig.
45 cents.
Craig, now I'm not sure that I can...
No, it's different. If I self-scanned it and missed it, then it would be on me. But They had a cashier.
No. That's what I'm
missed
saying.
it.
You self-scanned it and you missed it, but you got out of there and then realized it.
Yeah, I would probably go back in for that.
Okay,
that'd be on me.
Okay, in that regard, I think I might go ahead and give it to you here. Okay, so here's my question for you. Oh, wait a minute.
All right.
Now hold on, Craig. Let me ask you this. I have a friend who is a federal magistrate. He's been on the program before. Now, he's a federal magistrate for the Southern District of the United States Courts. Would it offend you, Craig, if we actually resort to his expertise as opposed to yours? I'll tell you what, Craig. I'll let you vote, and then I'm going to let our federal judge pine in as well via text. And
he's probably definitely more qualified than me, but that's cool.
That's all right, Craig. The fact that you're listening to the program alone means you're a decent guy, right? Or you're a philanthropic individual, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my question for you, Craig. In our numbers game, and my friend, the Honorable Mario Garcia, can also chime in with me via text, okay? He's a federal magistrate, so this guy's, very qualified. Okay.
Yep.
Here's my question for you. And then I will have Mario text me his answer.
Fire away.
In our numbers game, one of the prizes that we give away is the driver who moves the most positions through the field of the Indy 500 from starting point to finishing point, with the tiebreaker being the driver that starts the further back, okay? Now, with that, I had previously said that the winner in this prize, a $100 gift card to Cluster Truck, was Darnell. Darnell had Kyle Kirkwood in our random number assignment game. Kyle Kirkwood was the winner of the most positions moved. However, the car of Kyle Kirkwood has been deemed illegal by the post-race technical inspection, and as a result, he has been moved to the back of the field and is not credited with his top 10 finish, but in the official box score will be scored as lower than his starting position. Therefore, my question for you, Craig, does he still, because on the track, does Darnell still have claim to the biggest mover? Or
hell no. You don't need to say no more. He's eliminated.
But Darnell has nothing to do with it. He just randomly picked the number. Okay?
I know Darnell has nothing to do with it, but by the rules, it didn't count, right?
It did not count, no.
Well, there you go. There's your answer.
Okay. All right. Well, now we've got to figure this out. Now, federal magistrate, the Honorable Mario Garcia, I will await. I see the bubbles for Mario. Okay. If awards have not been handed out, Kirkwood is out as his performance is tainted. Next highest moving car that was legal shall win. Craig, how about that? Listen, Craig, I've known federal magistrate Garcia for basically my entire life, okay? This poor guy went through undergraduate and graduate and the arduous process of being appointed that, and all he had to do actually was call in this radio program, answer one Kroger question, and he too could have the same level of authority to make these decisions as you, Craig. Right?
Well, he's not wrong. We're both right. It's unanimous.
That's right. The prize money forfeited and the points lost. All right, well, I got news for you, Craig. I appreciate you calling in today.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
All right, you too. There we go. So now I got to figure out who the biggest mover was. My apologies to Darnell. Now, Darnell's won like 3 of these things before, but he is out, so I'm crossing Darnell off the list.
We just got to hope Darnell had a heck of a day yesterday and is still asleep. Didn't even hear any of it.
Darnell's going to be livid when he finds this out. How do we find out who the biggest mover was? Do we know? I'm looking at the box score. Now let me ask you this. I've got the starting grid right here. Atticus, I need you to do me a quick favor. Do you happen to have the roster in front of you of the official box score of the Indianapolis 500-mile race?
Working on it.
If not, could you please pull it up? 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. Please pull up the official box score, okay? Biggest mover. We know it's not Schwartzman. We know it's not Sato. We know it's not Pato, okay? We know it's not Dixon. We know it's not Rosenquist. We know it's not Palou. Palou was +5. Okay, Rosenquist would have been +1. Okay, Maluka started well. Lundgaard, Erickson, McLaughlin, Daly, Rossi. Can you look up for me the Ferrucci. Ferrucci was plus 10. He's going to join us like 10 minutes from now. DiFrancesco finished Stingray Rob. Rasmussen was up. Where did Christian Rasmussen finish in the race?
8th, but that was before the issues here. So knockout Erickson, knockout Kirkwood. That means he's 6th.
Okay. Well, Ferrucci then. So Ferrucci now officially, he goes from 15th to, I got to think here. So Ferrucci would be, he's up 11, right? Because he's now finished 4th. Is that right? He was 5th. He's now 4th. If Erickson
was 7th and then jumped Kirkwood and Erickson, right?
Yeah. Okay. So he's 5th, right? Okay. So yeah, he's up 10. Okay. Rasmussen. Where did Rasmussen finish?
8th. So jump him 2 spots to 6th.
Ooh, wait a minute. Rasmussen, I think, is our winner. Okay. He was up 12. Foster. Where did Foster finish?
15th, jump him up 3 spots.
Okay, so he's up 7. Okay, Castroneves, where did he finish?
13th, and he would also jump 3 spots.
So he's up 11, so Rasmussen still the leader here. Siegel?
16th, and then he is also up 3 spots.
So he's up 10, plus 10. I think we got our winner here. Hold on. Graham, where did Graham finish?
20th.
And then
plus
lastly,
3, so
okay,
17.
Will Power.
19th plus 3 is 16.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, no. 19th. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so Will Power's your winner. Will Power's your biggest mover, right? So that means now that our new winner of this game is Matthew. Our friend Matthew gets it with Will Power. So there we go. Matthew gets the $25 gift card. I'd like to thank everybody for partaking in our legal proceedings. Santino Ferrucci joins us next. Okay, our has completed his 7th Indianapolis 500-mile race. He has never in those 7 starts failed to record a top 10 finish. And he joins us now on the Rhinegeist Brewery guest line. He is a fan favorite of this radio station. He is Mr. Excitement in a Bottle. Santino Ferrucci joins us, and I'm going to put him on the spot with a trivia question to see how up-to-date he is on IndyCar current events. Santino Ferrucci, my first question for you right out of the box. Are you ready?
I am.
What place did you finish in yesterday's Indianapolis 500?
Well, technically I came across the line in 7th, but as I found out a couple minutes ago, I'm currently 5th.
Did you give me that? Spell that number again that you just said.
I'm finished 5th after everything's said and done. At the end of the day.
I thought you said 6th. Yes, 5th is correct because of the fact, and I got to be honest with you, man. And listen, I mean, I like Marcus Ericsson a great deal. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't even want to go there if Marcus Ericsson had actually won the race, which was entirely possible, and then and now the tech inspection failure, gets a little bit hairy there. But anyway, let's get to this. First off, congratulations, man. How do you feel about yesterday's run?
Man, I feel really good. I mean, we had so many different things going on. It was a very up and down race. We had the bodywork coming off for about 120 laps. Shout out to my crew. I don't even understand how they got that Trident bolt put back in a pit stop for us to lose as minimal time. And we just got a little unlucky at the end. The redhead just got caught. It happens. It's part of our sport. And, we weren't the only one to have that issue. So we ended up coming out of the pits in 6th. I needed a late caution to probably move up a couple more positions, but all in all, considering the month we had, I'm very happy.
It seemed like this was, and I'm going to give it to you, Santino, from a broadcast standpoint, and I want you to tell me from a driver's standpoint. From a broadcast standpoint, it was a very fractured race of different groups on different pit strategies that actually made it very confusing. Like half the time I couldn't tell who was organically in the top 5, who was off sequence, who I needed to pay attention to and not pay attention to. What about for you as a driver? Does that make sense what I'm saying at all?
Yeah, it was kind of tough to understand the strategy and what people were doing. But, I knew we were quick and I knew we were consistently up front. So I wasn't too worried about it. Also, some of our restarts that we had were just unreal. So I felt I was having a lot of fun with those. And it was going to be a good day for us. I figured. And we had a really fast race car.
Yeah, your car itself, and I want to get back to this because I was unaware of this. So you said that like as you're driving, and I'm envisioning you driving down the straightaway and like parts are flying off your car. And I'm not saying that that's what you were saying, but take me through that. I mean, just the nature of what was going on with your car and what it felt like.
Yeah, it's stressful to see. We had a bolt. So when you're looking at the car from a side profile view, we have these side pods that go on, and we had a bolt on one of the top corner of the side pod break, and so it was lifting up on the right-hand side, and it broke 2 more of these bolts, and I was just kind of getting nervous to the fact that eventually enough wind would get underneath it and the whole side pod would blow off the car, and then we'd have to retire. So, I was panicking and I was trying to get the team to understand what I was talking about, and it's difficult because I don't work on them. I don't work on the race cars. So me trying to describe what's broken and what's flapping in the wind doesn't exactly translate to what they thought.
Right.
But
yeah.
They did figure it out, which was great.
How many over the course of how many pit stops did they figure it out, or did they figure it out as soon as you came in?
The first stop, they didn't see anything broken, and my radio transmission wasn't great, but I basically was like, of course you're not going to see it. We're stationary. It only moves. It only comes apart when, we're going. The second stop, we tried to tape it down. My chief mechanic, Steve, actually was able to see it was broken. The third stop, he was able to get the front tire done and then bolt the pod back in. So it was honestly impressive.
How aware, I asked Alex Palou this question, but I'm going to ask you the same. With all the news today, last week, etc., about tech violations and things like that on the car, how aware are you of the specifications of the car that you're getting into? And if you had to guess of your competitors, of 33 of them, how many of them would you say are aware of modifications that could take place to their car?
I mean, as drivers, we wouldn't know. I mean, that's kind of like, you trust your crew, you trust your people to, do the right thing and get it done correctly, and you trust your engineers. But, I mean, it's one of those things to where those guys are brilliant, and they're trying to fight and find every loophole and every advantage to give me an advantage to go out and win. There's some good sayings from AJ too, but they're old school NASCAR sayings, which, I mean, they don't apply, but it's one of those things where, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But that's an old NASCAR saying, more so than IndyCar.
Yeah, but that's kind of listen, AJ was legendary stories, right?
AJ.
Yeah, I was going to say, AJ and Robin Miller had a few rounds just based on those kinds of allegations, right? And articles and the whole deal, right? So let's get to that real quick before I want to get to you about the race itself, just the event. But you now have been with AJ Foyt and around Larry Foyt and that group, and they've done, I mean, look at no further than you and David Malukas. I mean, the steps that Larry Foyt in particular has been able to make with that team of advancing it, especially on the super speedways. And you're a big part of that, Santino Ferrucci, who joins us on the Ryan Guys Brewery guest line. But give me your best AJ Foyt story.
Oh, man. You know what? I'll tell you the one that I always love that AJ tells about me, just because I think it's really cool. I mean, I live in Texas. I live in Houston. Getting to know these guys, getting to know Larry. I mean, Larry's the best boss I've ever had. I genuinely think that everything he's done to benefit my career and benefit the team has been outstanding. So when I was first spending time in Houston, driving down to the shop, I did my first seat fit. AJ's always there. And I had to I carry a 9mm, especially in Texas when you're driving through kind of middle of nowhere, because you never know. And I had to put my gun on the table and take my shoes off. And AJ saw me do that, and he said, he goes, "That's my driver right there." And just because, he's a big Texan.
I was going to say, this is the most Texas story ever, right?
Yeah. So I feel like I earned a lot of respect from AJ just based off of that. And he tells that story to people about me. And, I honestly just getting to know AJ and the fact that, he talks to me and spends time with me, and, I enjoy hanging out with him, and he's just so kind. It's just like a blessing. I mean, the guy is so cool. He's a genius, and they were forefront of technology and development in his day. And he there is nobody like him left in the sport. He is standalone in everything that he's done, what he'll accomplish, what he has accomplished. So, and I think that is very cool.
You grew up in Woodbury, Connecticut. You're now clearly you've passed the test as an official Texan, but
yeah.
This race, Santino, you've been in 7 of them now. You've taken to this place like a duck to water. A lot of drivers haven't done that. I mean, but the event itself, I don't even mean in terms of driving it. I don't even mean in terms of feeling out your race car, but everything about it, community day, the parade, the race itself, the banquet, all of it. What is Santino Ferrucci's favorite tradition or aspect of the Indianapolis 500 that was the first to let you know what a huge event it was?
The one thing that I'll never forget is getting kicked by a cow trying to milk it my rookie year. You can't make this up. They make you milk a cow when you're a rookie. It's like initiation.
Now, here's the thing, though. They trick you, Santino. They don't make you do it. They just tell you that Rossi did it as a rookie, and he was the first, and he won the race, and therefore everybody does it now, right?
Yeah, so I guess now we all milk a cow.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. But traditions like that are just amazing. Like, I feel like I see the same fans in specific areas, especially when we do the parade. I mean, just all the camaraderie around this place is unbelievable. I mean, seeing a packed house yesterday, too. That was my first one. I mean, among that, the Black Hawk helicopters flying right above us was ridiculous. I mean, this place is just so cool. It's unlike anything else we ever do. It's unlike any other event in the world, and that's what makes it special.
The The helicopter thing was incredible. That was for the 250th, birthday celebration of the United States Army. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe. I kid you not, Santino. I'm on top of the Northeast Vista. I felt like I was looking like they were lower than I was. I mean, it was remarkable. So you guys, as drivers, you could see them when you look up?
Dude, they were like not even 50 feet above us. You could hear them and feel them.
Yeah.
Can you imagine seeing like 200 of these things like going into battle, guns blazing?
Yeah.
I mean, we just got 2 above us flying around. I mean, I was like in shock and awe, like trying to drive around my parade laps, trying not to hit the car in front of me, looking up at these things. You never see that being a civilian, let alone you never get to see that being in a race car.
It was unbelievable. I mean, it was truly remarkable. Now, I'm looking here at the grid. I'm trying to remember. So if you would have had some sort of an issue, you would have actually, it would have been Rossi that you would have like just driven right in the back of, right? Didn't that it was right in front of you?
Yeah, I pretty much. So I tried not to. I think everybody was looking up, and we all just kind of maintained speed so we can stop and stare.
Was it weird to you guys to start and have laps counting under a caution with the incident with McLaughlin, and then go to a flying start on what technically was like lap 5 or whatever?
No, because I mean the race start's still the race start. I will say that was really freak, and I feel really bad for Scott and their whole crew. I mean, I know how hard he works at this event, and I know how hard they've been to put together those cars. I mean, I didn't even know what happened. I just watched it in front of me, so I can see the heartbreak. So, you never want to see that before the start of the race, but conditions on that day were just tricky.
Which is harder, the start of the race or like a mid-race restart in terms of just mayhem, or is it kind of the same all the way around?
Oh, mid-race restart for sure. I mean, the amount of times we were 4 wide going into 1 on all those restarts was insane, but it was awesome.
For you, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
You realize there's like 33 people on planet Earth that would do that, right? I mean, and they happen to all be down there, right?
Trust me, I was trying to get to the top of 4 every time. My spotter was losing it.
And listen, you're Mr. Excitement, right? That's what people love, no question about it. Is it hard for you, last question, Santino Ferrucci, for me as a broadcaster and for a lot of fans, it's hard now because there's so much that goes into the excitement of the 500. It means so much to the people here. And then there's almost like this letdown. But yet we got to turn around and race this coming weekend on the streets of Detroit. So is that hard for you?
Yeah, it is. It's stressful for my crew. I'm about to go into the shop and see if these guys need a hand before we go out to the banquet tonight. The way that they got to turn around, especially my crew especially. Dude, we've done 2 motors, broken apart the car 8 times. Like, my guys are absolutely just been to hell and back for me this month. I mean, we've had so many things that are just out of our control happen to us. So, we're just trying to keep them energized and, try to lend a helping hand where I can. I mean, I don't know if they want me to turn wrenches, but I can if they want me to. It's not like I don't know.
By the way, just so you know, milking a cow, even though I think Connecticut does have a lot of farmland, but Woodbury, Connecticut, I'm imagining not necessarily milking a cow in the curriculum. In Texas, absolutely part of living in Texas, probably more bull than milk, but yes.
Maybe.
All right, Santino, I appreciate it, man. Congratulations on what is now a top 5 finish at the Indianapolis 500, and again, a remarkable record. No pressure here, but you now have once again, I believe, you hold the record for the most starts in the Indianapolis 500-mile race without a DNF. That record did belong to Howdy Holmes, and you now have broken it, and it's
Seriously?
up to you to hold it, right?
Yeah, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Howdy
wow,
Holmes.
That's awesome.
Howdy Holmes had 6 starts without a DNF, and then at one point Franchitti had passed him, but in Franchitti's last race he got a DNF, so he falls off the board. Pagano had done the same. Pagano got a DNF in his last race, fell off the board. So now at 7 for 7, you are the record holder. No pressure to upkeep it and not get a DNF in your career.
Well, I will do my best.
All right. We'll see you in Detroit, man. Appreciate the time.
Thank you guys so much. Take care.
All right,
Happy
there he
Memorial
is.
Day.
Same to you. Santino Ferrucci on this Memorial Day. In fact, Captain America, if you will. Let's get to Barry real quick, who's been waiting patiently. Barry, how are you?
Great. You? Want to compliment you on your broadcast?
What's that?
Complimenting you on your broadcast yesterday.
I appreciate
you guys
that.
are awesome.
Did you go to the race?
No, I did not.
Okay. So does
I
that mean
listened to you and watched it?
Did you listen to any of it? Be honest. Be honest.
You listen and watch, and actually the delay was only a couple 3 seconds, not like the
That's
past
cool.
when it's 5 to 10. But no, I just wanted a tidbit about Connor Daly.
Okay.
It's a proud fact about my father, David Rayler. He taught his father, Derek, how to fly.
Really?
Get his pilot's license at the great airport, Biddle Memorial Airport in Sheridan, Indiana.
I'll be honest with you, Barry. I didn't realize that there is an airport in Sheridan, and I don't mean that condescendingly. I mean, obviously, it's a private airport, right?
Oh no, it's public, but
well, but
yeah,
I mean, I'm saying for private planes, not commercial planes, is what I mean.
Yeah, private. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool, man.
And another thing, I'm wondering, Chris Denary, awesome coverage. Are you going to try to take over turn 4, or are you going to stay at turn 3?
No, I'll stay in 3. I love 3 because admittedly, it's the biggest track area to call. So I believe, and I don't know if this has been announced. I do know that they will, in qualifying, I stay in 3. Chris is not in 4 for qualifying, and I just drop it straight from myself to the main stretch because I can kind of see in 4, or I can see them going into 4. But for the race itself, we will indeed and I think 4 is the most important position. And Denary does it perfectly, as he's done for 24 years, 26 on the broadcast, because the turn 4 announcer has a very important job because, number one, oftentimes they have the shortest call. But number 2, they have to make the decision when we do. If, for example, if there's a battle on the racetrack, let's say there's a battle for 5th. I'm giving you an inside baseball here, but let's say Rosenquist and O'Ward are racing for 5th place and they're tight. Somebody will notice that and will pick up that call. And we'll keep it for, say, 2 to 3 laps, maybe 4 laps. Chris had the ultimate responsibility of figuring out and just kind of making the decision or having the tact of when that conversation was over and when that was going to settle itself out and when we had gone to it too many times, and he would kind of reset the deck and throwing it back to Mark, and there was certain language that goes into it that kind of makes it clear, like, okay, we're good with that. Let's get on to a different topic or a different battle on the racetrack. In addition to that, if over the course of the call, if we get too far behind, which, oftentimes maybe that's my fault if I drop it to him too late, or if we just get too far behind, Chris has to make the decision whether to just do a quick toss to Mark or to hold on to it longer and throw directly to Nick in 1, and et cetera. So in terms of the pace and the meter of what we do, turn 4, I think, has the ultimate responsibility. And I do know who's going to be in turn 4 next year, and I don't know if they've announced that yet or not, so I don't want to say. But we will still have 4 turn announcers. John is in today as well. We'll hand it off to him next, and we'll put a tie on all of it on this Memorial Day edition of Query and Company. to Connor Daly, Alex Palou, and Santino Ferrucci. Again, the big news of the day, aside from the biggest, which is the Pacers now having to win tomorrow night at the Fieldhouse to go up 3-1, or else they're going to have to go back and win in New York. The other things that were big stories today. Caitlin Clark, we now know, is out with a quad injury, quad muscle strain, a minimum of 2 weeks, it was listed as from the Indiana Fever. So minimum out 2 weeks for Caitlin Clark. Also, Marcus Ericsson, who was provisionally the runner-up in yesterday's Indianapolis 500, Kyle Kirkwood, who had a top 10 finish, and Callum Ilott. Those 3 cars have been ordered to the back of the official scoring due to failing post-race tech inspection. So that now means that the runner-up in the race is David Malukas. Everybody moves up, obviously, 3 spots. And Ilott, who had a really good race, ends up in the 33rd position. Now, the question is, for people that haven't scored as such, does that mean that first out goes to Scott McLaughlin or Callum Ilott? I still say Scott McLaughlin was first out, right? Because he didn't turn a lap, but he has not scored his 33rd. So I guess the language, if you're in pools, is whether or not it is first out or whether or not it is, quote, last place, right? Isn't that the easiest way to determine that?
100%.
So Nathaniel, now James has come in for John's show. John was just in. I think this is still correct. When I came in today, it was like absolutely perfect outside. And I'm like, why could we not have had the race today? It was perfect outside. Is it still nice out, James? It's very nice out right now. I'm looking at my phone's telling me it's mostly cloudy. I don't know if that's true or not.
There were some clouds when I got in, but it wasn't bad.
I mean, as luck would have it, nice day today after a not as, I mean, it was cold where I was, buddy. It was cold. I had on a hat. I had on a Patagonia jacket, the whole 9 yards. Flat out cold where I was. JMV's walked in. John, you seemed less than happy about the Pacers game last night.
No. And then being here is twice as happy. So, yeah.
You know, Eddie's the only guy who didn't come into work
today.
Having
a great time. I got to come in here yesterday, too. So, yeah. I think you and I are like having a battle between who worked the most this weekend. But I know who's not.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
So, no,
right?
I'm a little salty today. This is going to be a pissy ass 3 hours.
Now, why
for me.
salty?
Huh?
Why salty?
At
least we have stuff to talk about.
For one, this is what it's not so much having to come into work on this day. More than anything else, it's people that have just started watching the Pacers that don't know a damn thing about how they play, how they win, and they're so stupid, and I have to put up with it. So I'm going to deal with that today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's a
grievance.
grievance.
All the wrong
right?
reasons as to why they lost last night. And there's really only one real reason why they lost last night. So, and then still they're in control.
They are. They got to win tomorrow night.
You're an excuse maker, cheerleader. You know, you can just smooch my ass because you don't know anything.
I
about
sat
what
behind
you're
some of
talking
your typical Drakkar Miami Heat fans, I think you called them. I sat
What's that?
behind a couple of guys from New York that mirrored your Drakkar Miami Heat
Well,
fans.
that
of
place is going to be
yesteryear.
flooded with blue and orange clowns tomorrow, too. So that's the other thing. Last night was so disappointing because not only did they have it right there, but you just play your game. And it's not like the Knicks. Everybody gave the Knicks credit for all this great defense. My ass, they weren't playing great defense. The Pacers played down to that defense.
They did.
Half court, late clock, bull crap that doesn't
they didn't push
work here.
the pace either. 14 fast break point.
I'm going to be salty all
14
day.
fast break points first half, 2 in the second half. So.
But I had a great weekend, though. I will say that. You can tell by my voice.
Me too. My voice, my throat's sore, by the way. I need to take some lozenges. All right, John's up next. We'll be back with you noon tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Query Company.